and I'm broadcasting.
Hello.
The webinar is, yeah. So hello and welcome to this very special day and this very special live web event with my great friend and mentor, Janet Attwood. It's so pleased to have you here. I've been really looking forward to this, and I'm looking forward to talking to you. You know, we talk so much about passion, and I'm a passion test facilitator, and there's been a really turnover in my life to have met you and to become a passion test facilitator, but also to have you as a mentor and actually teach me a little bit about self-love. Sometimes the hard way, but sometimes that's how you have to learn it, and take it in. You really did change my life. And I'm sure that all these people that are joining us here for this webinar, they will get why you did that, because there's a lot there's a lot of spiritual energy in being with you, but there's also a lot of fun, and I love that fun part about being with you also. So we actually we're going to enjoy this no matter what, just going to have a lot of fun today together. So, and of course, most of the people who are seeing this webinar already know that you're quite a famous speaker. You travel all around the world, and in a matter of fact, you're actually in Thailand at the moment, sitting at a hotel room. We might hear a little bit why you're doing that later on. And you have been written several books that hit the top of the New York bestseller list. So you're quite famous. You hang around with a lot of famous people around on different kind of stages, but you still want to be here also and I know it's because you love transformation through love. Is that not right?
Well, that's one of the reasons, but I'm doing this today because it's you. That's why I'm doing this today. And I love to talk about self-love, but really it was because you asked, and I've seen such a great acceptance of self in you in these, over the years. And I'm really proud of what you're doing and who you've become. And I just want to support you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm doing it even though somebody might notice that I'm actually having a little bit of a cold here. So I'm hanging in here because I did not want to cancel this very special thing of being here. So, and by the way, you who are watching this, if you can send us a little hello and tell us where you're watching from, we will appreciate. You should be able to kind of wave to us and ask if you have any questions. Along the way, I will follow it and we'll try to see what Janet has to say about that. So please interact the way that you are able to do that. So let's start, sweet Jenny. We all know that you are the one who are really passionate about the passion test and that you developed the passion test. And you're now getting to talk more and more about self-love, which I really appreciate. I think it's such an important subject also. But why are you changing to talking more about self-love?
Well, you know what I realized is that the passion test is a tool that I use for self-love. And so I felt like, wait a minute, it's one tool, and yet if you're living your passions, it doesn't necessarily mean you're happy. Because if you still have all these limiting beliefs, and we're going to talk about them later on, about yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not, then, and you know this, even living your passions is not the be all and end all. And what I really came to see was what was lacking in what I was talking about was this subject of self-love. And so I decided, well, let's see, the teacher always learns the most. And I really felt like I wanted to become the most loving person I could possibly be. Now, I don't have to be the most loving person in the world, but the most loving person I could possibly be. And how do you become the best at anything, or the most at anything that you want to be? You start teaching it. The teacher always learns the most. And I will absolutely say, Susanne, that this has been really a great choice of mine, because it put my attention so much on the areas of my life still that I was kind of ignoring and put them on the front burner instead of the back burner. And I've noticed so many great things have happened to me since then. And it's simply, the world is as you are. And when you start putting your attention on, and you know the saying in the passion test, what you put your attention on grows stronger in your life. When you start putting your attention on self-love, then naturally anything unlike self-love is going to show up, and then you have to deal with it. And that's what has been my journey. And so I'm really, really, really excited about sharing this, because I want everyone to be experts in the area of self-love, because I really truly feel that, you know, what's going on the planet right now has everything to do with lack of self-love. Because you think about it, if all of us were really truly loving and appreciating our own gifts, there wouldn't be all of this negativity and deception and separation that is out there. And so this is my new quest. And I know, actually, I want to say to everyone that I know it's all of our quest. It's not just mine, it's all of us. And for those of you that are on this webinar today, I really want to congratulate you, because you were drawn to this because you knew inside of yourself that love is your nature. It is who you are. And I just want to say thank you so much for realizing that, and realizing that this is important to you, and hooray for you, because that's a great step in the area of self-love, to do things that will bring you closer to knowing who you really are, who your true essence is. So I'm really excited. So thank you for
I'm so excited to talk about this topic, because I see it also with all the people that I mentor and all the people I meet around, that's really the missing link in a way. You know, there's so much lack of confidence, so much lack of self-love with a lot of people, that you just see how much light they are, and you just want them to get out there. So Janet, tell us a little bit more then, after your discoveries here. What is actually self-love?
Well, as I said, self-love was a subject that I definitely wanted to learn. And I wanted to learn it again, not only because it's really something that I feel is needed on the planet, but I didn't have a lot of self-love when I was young. And I grew up in a tumultuous household, and there was a lot of wars from my father to my mother to my brother to my sister, and a lot of self-talk that wasn't fulfilling, that didn't feel good, and so I grew up kind of like there's something wrong with me. And my world started to reflect the way I was thinking. And what I've come to see, and here's really the good news for all of us, is that self-love is actually the essence of who we are. We don't need to create it. Our job is, all we have to do is remove the blocks to experience the truth of who we really are. And I want to say that again. It's really removing the blocks, because our nature is love. That's who we are. That's who we, you know, we were brought into this world like little kids, and we were like, yeah, you know, and we were so excited, and then life happened, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, and we started layering and protecting and doing all of these things that created this separation. And opening the doorway to self-love, it actually means replacing some old core beliefs and some damaging habits with new beliefs and life-affirming new habits. And so when you make self-love a practice, you actually develop new neural pathways in your brain that will support your experience of, of who you are more and more. And I am so all about this, because it's all about life is here to be totally enjoyed. And how do you enjoy? By really understanding that life is about having unconditional self-love. And what's so cool about this, Susanne, is that when you really start to put your attention on self-love, it's a self-perpetuating cycle. And what I mean by that is that the more that you create these habits of self-love, the easier it becomes to experience greater self-love. And the next thing, it's like, you're like in this groove, and as time goes on, it becomes easier and easier to spontaneously be, kinder and gentler towards yourself. As I saw to myself, this is what happened for me. I started, thinking, oh, my students need more self-love. And then, of course, kaboom, what I realized was Janet needs more self-love. And the next thing I know, from putting my attention on it, is that I became kinder. I became more gentle. And it's simply because the world is as you are. And so who you're being is being reflected out into the universe through all of the people that we come into contact with. And so the more kind you are to yourself, the kinder you are to others, because there is no one out there. I love to say that. There's no one out there. I meet no one but me. So there you have it. So self-love is first and foremost, and I can just go on and on about this, but it's, about being okay where you're previously not okay. And it isn't about changing or morphing or thinking that you have to be someone else and, I have to become the image in my mind of who I think I should be. No, what I've really come to learn, it's just an acceptance. And that's the big word, acceptance of who you are right now. In this moment, in this present moment, acceptance of who you are right now. It's about realizing really that, that you're enough just as you are. And that's what I think about. What is self-love?
I am who I am. I'm enough as who I am.
Yeah, exactly. Who I am is enough. I'm enough, I'm enough, and I'm enough.
And what does it look like, when you really grow your self-love? Are there any special symptoms that you can see? Here's a person who have grown their self-love.
There's so many of them. The way you, think about yourself, you begin to, elevate instead of waking up going, God, am I okay? Am I good enough? Or feeling depressed. You feel excited, and your day is reflecting that. And it's simply because you feel good for no reason. You just feel, good about yourself. And then as you go about your day, instead of being on the receiving end of someone else's bad day, you start to discover that no matter how hurtful someone else can be, it doesn't seem to touch you. And I got to tell you, I had an experience of this just the other night, which was really cool. I was at a dinner, and this woman just said, she got so mad, and she said to me, I heard things about you, Janet. And she was like adding fuel to her fire. Okay, here, I've heard this, and you did this. And I looked at her, and I just, I felt so good about myself. And I said, well, you know what? I bet the things you've heard aren't even as bad as I possibly am. And I was really having fun with it. And it was so great, because the minute I said that, if there's no target, there's nowhere for the arrow to go. And I just didn't feel it. I wasn't a target. And I truly, with all my heart, I felt so good and so filled with love that I could have fun. And the minute I did that, the minute I said, I'm probably way worse than what anybody could say, all of a sudden she jumps up out of her chair. She runs over to me, puts her arms around me, and says, oh my God, forgive me. I feel I'm so sorry. It was my stuff. So, what's really cool, Susanne, is that the more I really put my attention on this and really notice, okay, where am I loving myself? Where am I not? What do I need to do? I'm noticing that my neural pathways, right? The grooves that I've grooved, those areas that, I said for a long time when ever since I was young, I'm too much. Mine is, I'm too much. I'm too much, I'm too intense, I'm too this, I'm too that. All of a sudden, I don't go there. And what I found, and another symptom, is that you'll start noticing that you attract positive and supportive friends around you. You make great, better choices. And again, it's simply because the world will just reflect. Your inner reflects the outer. Again, the world is as you are. A beautiful quote from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. The world is as you are. So as you're being with you, it'll be reflected in your relationships, and just starts changing so quickly. I mean, whatever is going on, you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to stay there. All you have to do is set the intention. Okay, I'm setting my intention to really love and nurture myself. And we always hear when we're sitting on a plane, I mean, I like know this one by heart, make sure you put on your air mask before your child's. And it's about loving you and knowing that when you love you, everything else follows from that. It's about loving yourself, learning how to love yourself first. It's really a really cool ride.
It sounds like it's something about a higher energy level that you put yourself into.
Well, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Because think about it. If you're always condemning yourself and you're always negative and you're always, saying I'm just such a loser, I'm this, that. I mean, feel how your body feels. I mean, if we did muscle testing right now, and I said, okay, I want you to put out your arm. I do this in my self-love training. I want you to put out your arm, and I want you to say, I hate myself, I hate myself, I hate myself, and then try to resist, right? Well, that person can't resist. They're totally weak. And when I have them say, I am love, I am love, I am love, then I can't pull down their arm. They're so powerful. So, we're either giving people the best of us or the worst of us, and that's our choice. And that's a choice. And that's a choice. And so for everybody who's on today, I really want to thank you again for making the choice to be here and to learn some things that can hopefully elevate your spirit and elevate yourself. And is it elevate? That's even a kind of funny word, because truly we are that. We are that love. We are the elevated individual. It's not like we become that. We are that. It's just that when we start stopping the habits that are creating these negative self-talk, then what happens is we start taking off these different layers that that we've put on ourselves that have kind of like covered us from our true nature, from who we really are. Huh?
That sounds cool. Can you teach us a little bit tricks and techniques about how to get closer into that?
I love you so much. You're asking all the right questions today. So thank you. Okay. For everybody, here's the challenge. And if we're to recognize that we are truly loved and we are loved, then we have to be honest with ourselves. And for a lot of us, that's a little tough. We got to kind of go into where aren't we being loving to ourselves. And so over the next few minutes, I want you to consider one part of yourself, and it's called the self-critic. And I know none of you have a self-critic, right? So I got to tell you, I was the queen of self-critics. So if I can do it, you can do it. It's the private, and it's that hidden voice of our own inner thoughts that are shouting oftentimes and berating us, and and we oftentimes do it. And Susanne, I think you can relate to this too, some past thinking. We do this when no one else is watching, yeah? Right? I mean, we never say, God, I'm such a loser when we're at a training. But notice that when we look in the mirror or we pass by a mirror, what do we say to ourselves? And, this looking at the self-critic is really important, because learning how to handle it and replace the voice of your own inner critic. It's a great way that I found, and my students have found, to tear away a layer of that wrapping, of that veil of illusion that we're not enough. And each time we do that, what we do is we become closer to that jewel of our true self, where that abundance of love exists within us. And that is the sweet spot. And right now, what we're going to do to get to that sweet spot is I want us all to take a look at the self-critic within us. And I have a few questions to ask everyone listening. Again, in those quiet moments when no one's looking, when no one's there, right? No matter how many transformational books you've read, success books, been to seminars, done this, done that, when you're alone, do you find yourself judging a lot and even cursing and, becoming depressed and irritated at yourself because, you feel somehow you've let yourself down? And do you wake up in the morning and feel guilt and dread and a weariness because you fear that, amidst the repetition and daily distractions, there's nothing you're learning. You're not growing into anything that expands and excites you anymore. And does this leave you feeling a little contracted and irritated? And do you find yourself quietly saying yes? And this is what a lot of people do. I do a lot of work in Japan, as you know, Susanne. And oh my God, Japan and Thailand, they are the king and queen of saying yes when they mean no. And when they do that, they suffer so much because they're doing it because they want other people to love them. And so when they're saying yes, when they actually mean no, it's really keeping them from their happiness, and they're not thinking about the consequences that has by saying yes when you mean no to their health, their heart, and their own personal time. So what I want everyone to do right now is I want you to ask yourself, what motivates you to have, to be your self-critic? And to say yes when you mean no? Is it to please others because you're afraid to let them down? Or are you concerned that they will not like or appreciate or admire you? And notice, are you attracted to hanging out with people who keep you stuck in one type of persona? That, you feel like you're wearing a coat that's like way too tight and you've outgrown it, but there you are waiting for permission from others to shed that persona? Or do you feel, trapped and stuck in your old ways and patterns? So I want you to take a look at these questions, because what we have to do right now is to take an honest look at ourselves from the inside out. And maybe you're not going to like everything you see yet. But remember, that's why you're here, and it's here to change that inner landscape of those thoughts and feelings that are bringing you down, to find a greater love. So here we are, and this is the first step. And don't worry, we're about to make a change. But I want you to repeat this beautiful quote that I love, and it's just simply, I'm here to change the inner landscape of my thoughts and feelings, and I am here to find love. And I want you to say that with me. I am here to change the inner landscape of my thoughts and feelings.
The inner landscape of my thoughts and feelings. Yeah.
I am here to find love.
I'm here to find love.
And this is what we all need to recognize. Because how we view ourselves and how we come to love ourselves fully and totally unconditionally, it's not dependent on the measure of love that is given or shown to us. I don't care how many times someone says, I love you, you're so beautiful, you're so great. If I don't know it, if I don't believe it from within myself, it just goes thud. Either that or I think the person's lying and that they don't know how, can you relate, right?
I really relate.
So here we go, everybody. We're the creators of our own self-love. I mean, we've all heard all this stuff before. We all know all this stuff. And yet here you are today. And the reason why you're here is because we're just remembering. We're kind of going back to, I would call it self-love elementary school. No, wait. I think we should call it self-love kindergarten, right? So that we can remind each other, remind ourselves what it is we do and what it is we need to do in order to change our neural pathways. I love Byron Katie's quote. Byron Katie, who has this great process of self-inquiry called the work. God, spare me from the desire to seek love, approval, or appreciation. Imagine, and I love this, imagine what your life would be like without the desire for other people's love, appreciation, and approval. And I want to do a sidebar for a minute because I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about my friend Bill Farber. Susanne, did you ever meet him? Did I ever introduce him to you?
I met him when we were in San Diego for the passion test.
I knew you'd met him.
Yeah.
So Bill Farber is no longer in his body, but Bill Farber was one of the greatest intuitives and healers that I've ever met. And I just loved Bill Farber. And so does my friend Deborah Poneman, who is a top transformational leader. And she and I were in San Diego and we were giving a program and we had invited Bill to be a speaker. Now, I don't think I've ever told you this story, Susanne. Bill had never been on a stage yet. This was his very first time. And Debbie and I were a little worried. We were a little concerned, like, God, how's he going to do? Will it be okay? But we kept saying, but this is Farber, and Farber is so great. And so, Farber's turn gets up and he's doing fantastic. And Debbie and I are at the back of the room and we're going, yeah, God, he's just killing it. He was just fantastic. And then in the middle of his talk, Bill goes, I'll be right back. And Debbie and I look at each other like, hello? He's in the middle of his talk, of his presentation at our seminar. And he looks at everybody and says, I'll be right back. And I'm in the back and I said, Farber, what the heck? Where are you going? And without even blinking, he goes, nature calls. And Susanne gets off his chair, he walks to the bathroom, and he's gone for 10 minutes. I mean, have you ever seen anybody do that?
No, actually not.
I mean, I swear to God, we were so blown away. And he comes back, and he sits down, and he finishes with a standing ovation. And I got to tell you, I think the greatest thing Farber did was not what he said. It was who he was being. He had so much self-love. Now, here was what I saw. He had so much self-love that he knew everybody was going to be fine because he needed to love himself and take care of what his needs were. And I got to tell you, I will never forget that. It was so stunning to see, and I call it the Farber story. And, this is where I want all of us to be. Farber left the body, and he left his body a couple of years ago, and he did it like he did everything, just quietly and unassuming, and, I'm out of here, and he left, and that was it. And I got to tell you, to this day, Farber is still so alive in me from that particular moment. So for all of us, learning to handle and to replace that voice of our inner critic back to the inner critic is a really cool way to raise your self-esteem, just like Farber has, this incredible self-esteem. And so, our inner critic either spurs us to get a ton of things done, or to do things that will gain acceptance from others, which is a vacuous, never-ending cycle that brings nothing. So here's what we're going to do right now. I want you guys to think about, what does your inner critic shout or whisper? What are the damaging and destructive thoughts in your mind? So let me give you an example. Thoughts like, I'm too fat, I have no self-control, I'm such a loser, I'm ugly, no one will ever want me, I'm lazy, I'm sloppy, I'll never amount to anything, I'm terrible at everything I do, and everyone sees it. I wish I could see you guys, because I'd ask you, raise your hand if you heard any of the ones that you do, because I think I've done every single one of them at some point in my life. And so what I want all of you to do right now is, I just want you to take a minute, and I want you to think about, what does your inner critic say to you? What is it that your inner critic says? And I want you to take a minute, and I want you to write it down. Just write down a really short, concise sentence. And what is the most negative thing that you consistently say to yourself? So just take a minute, a very short, concise sentence. What would mine be? I'm too much, That has been my self-critic for most of my life. And my world reflects that has reflected that forever. And now I'm turning that around. I'm enough. So I want you to write down, what does your inner critic say? And I'll put on some really sweet, sweet music while you're doing that, okay? So here we go. I'm going to give you just a minute. I don't know if you can hear this music. It's not that loud.
Do you want people to write it down in the comments? They can do that.
Say that again.
Do you want people to write it down in the comment field? So
yeah, no, they can write it down in their comments, but I want them to just write it down, a short, concise sentence. Thank you for asking. What is the most negative thing that you consistently say to yourself? Write it down, because then I'm going to share with you what you're going to do next. Okay, that's just the first step. And remember, I said we got to go to the icky moments to get to the to the good stuff, the juicy love stuff. Okay, so all of you guys should have your inner critic. That statement that you usually say to yourself that takes out your light. And I mean, think about it. Every time you say it, you go right into that dark space, and then your world starts reflecting, because what does the mind do? The mind, when we say all these negatives, starts to move really quickly to set up the circumstances to show us that we're right. And so people come into our lives and they start saying the things that we're thinking. Remember what I said in the very beginning, the world is as you are. The world is as you are. So if you're constantly saying these negative, and you grooving these negatives into you, then the world is going to reflect those negatives. And we all have a choice on whether we want to accept our inner critic or learn ways to minimize that critical voice and replace it with thoughts that change these neural pathways to create greater self-love. That's what we're doing right now. I have this really cool saying in my house in Denmark: change your thinking, change your world. And remember, only you can change how you view yourself. And one way to do this is to stop that inner critic in its tracks. So here's what we're going to do next. I want you all to think and find your stop word or stop phrase whenever your inner critic shows up. So it looks like this. So if I say an inner, my inner critic, I'm too much, then the next thing, whenever I say that, I say cancel. So some examples of stop phrases or words can be, like hell no, or get out, or out of here, or stop, or cancel. I want you to find a stop word that you can use so that the minute you become aware of your negative thinking, you can no, like how often do we give orders to ourselves? Usually we're, oh, I don't know what to do. Can someone help me? But it's time for all of us to really take responsibility for what we're doing, own it, and then shift it. And one way to do that is the minute you become aware of your negative thinking, say a stop word. So find a stop word or phrase that you like that stops that train of thought driven by your inner critic, and just take about 30 seconds to do that. And I want you to write that down. Okay. So are you following me, Susanne?
I'm following you. I have some very nasty sentences here, and looking at this stop word.
You got your stop word?
Yeah, I was thinking about, it had to be a little bit short to be, so you don't.
So can I use you as an example? Would that be okay?
That would be okay. I'm here.
Okay. All right. So what is your negative inner critic say to you? What is it that it says to you?
Yeah, I also have this one about being too much, but I also have another one which is about nobody loves me.
Nobody loves me. All right. So that's okay. So, and what's your stop word?
I was actually thinking about using ridiculous.
Oh, beautiful! I love that. That's a great. That's so
in Danish, actually. I thought it had to be in Danish. So, but the same time to say that's. I was thinking about using now. That's enough, but I thought that was a little bit too long. So ridiculous, I think.
I love that. Okay, so let's practice, and I'm going to be you. All right, but you're going to be the stop word. All right.
Okay.
Nobody loves me.
That's ridiculous.
Okay, now here's what we're going to do. I want you to find 3 pieces of evidence, and I know this is going to be really super easy for you, and I want everyone else that's listening to do that too, of the opposite of your self-critic statement. So the opposite, Susanne, for you would be nobody loves me. I want you to give me evidence how that's not true. And I want you to say, instead, I am loved because, and fill in the blank. And I want you to give me 3 pieces of evidence right now. And first, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write them down. So take about a minute. And all of you do that too. Write down 3 pieces of evidence why the opposite is actually true or truer. And it is. And remember, here's the cool thing about changing neural pathways. The mind, when you're giving orders to the mind, you don't even have to believe it. You just have to begin. So find 3 pieces of evidence that's the opposite of your negative self-critic. So we'll just take about half a minute for that. Do you have yours yet, Susanne?
Yeah. It's hard.
Okay. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go. I'm going to go. I'm going to be the one to say, was your word, I'm unlovable? Or nobody loves me, right? Okay. You're going to do your stop word, and then you're going to do your 3 pieces of evidence.
Yep.
I am loved. And then you're going to tell us why. Okay, ready? I'm you. Nobody loves me.
Ridiculous. I am loved. Because I have a husband, a wonderful husband who loves me.
Nobody loves me.
Ridiculous. I'm connected to the universe always.
Nobody loves me.
Ridiculous. I get that stop word is excellent because it already changes. Yeah, ridiculous. I actually have 2 sons, and most of the time they love me.
I love that you did this. Now, and I hope all of you are going to, do this as well and go find someone you can do this with, because how do you feel now? Even about beginning?
Yeah. It's because you figure out that it's actually ridiculous, these self-criticism. It is.
It's not enough to just go ridiculous.
No.
The mind needs to have evidence.
Yep.
So everybody needs to find their evidence. And then this is the way that we shift our neural pathways. And this is the way that we start to lift those veils that we've layered that separate us from our true nature, our true self. And I've got to tell you, I've been doing this and doing it. I'll think of, okay, Janet, write it down. And I can write 5 self-critics and then find 3 pieces of evidence and play this game with myself. And now I'm always doing it. I'm always replacing it with positive evidence that is really true. And what I'm noticing, and I'm noticing it on a very practical level, Susanne, is that I'm doing better business. I know that sounds really weird, but since the world is as you are, I feel better about myself, and everything is reflecting it. I feel more abundant and everything is reflecting it. So it's such a simple thing, and I think simple things are so cool. It seems so obvious, but how many of us are doing it on a daily basis?
And that's what I really love about this small exercise. It's a small, easy, comprehensible exercise that you can actually take into and change it. And it's a natural follow from the passion test and from Byron Katie and all of this stuff that we've been talking about before, to take it.
Yeah, it's one of many, during my self-love program, what I do is it's really an immersion, like the passion test program, where it's one exercise after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. And after a while, you can't even go there anymore. You can't go to that place. It's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Which is really wonderful.
So telling me, and I didn't even know that you created a special, I know you talk about doing it, but you have actually created a program for this self-love. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I'm getting all excited.
Yeah. Love certification program.
Yeah.
And the first one is going to be in Finland, and everyone can go to the Passion Test website, www.thepassiontest.com, and go under programs and find the date, and you can sign up if you want. But it's a really cool program because first and foremost,
to send it out to people after this, I will send all the information out if there's anything.
Thank you. That'd be great. So first and foremost, it's a program for everyone to master the art of self-love. This is the purpose of this 4-day program. It's a 4-day program, and it's a massive immersion of nothing but self-love. But also what's so cool about it is, as I said in the very beginning, what I noticed when I started training others in the area of self-love, what I experienced was I got so much. I mean, I just felt like my whole life I was on a supersonic jet plane. And so what they also, if they feel after those 4 days that they'd like to be a trainer of self-love, it's called the Mastery of Self-Love Certification, then they learn a 3-hour workshop, which is really cool. And they get the template, they get all the exercises, they get all of the different, bells and whistles that they need to have. They get all of the music. They get absolutely everything they need to go and put on a workshop and train others in self-love. And I've done a number of these now. I actually started with a 9-day program, and that was my mastery of self-love. It was my master trainer program. I went straight to master trainer. And then I realized, no, I needed a 4-dayer. And because I saw that people were going so quickly. And I really think that really what it is getting the tools, the tips, and the different things that people need, and then just practicing, right? Practicing it and working with other people and being in it's not a mastermind that I put people into. I call them angel groups. And it's really sweet. I was in an angel group for over 25 years. Deborah Poneman's husband named our group, which got together to pray about the community and the world and ourselves. And every time she went home, he'd say, "Oh, you were with your angel group." And one day we said, "Debbie, why does Fred call it the angel group?" And she said, "Well, it's because every time I come home after we're all together and we're all doing all this love stuff and prayer stuff and connection stuff, I'm more of an angel." And so we put everyone in these angel groups so that they feel more connected. They get to practice all of this stuff together on a regular basis. So it's really a wonderful opportunity for everyone to not only grow in their own self-love, but be the teacher, living the teaching, sharing the knowledge, and growing themselves. And it's a fabulous program. I'm really super excited, and thank you for asking me about it.
It sounds great to be in an angel club. I want to be in an angel club now.
And it's angel group. It's an angel group. Don't you want to be in it though too? I know. And it's really cool. And the other thing about the program is that we use all kinds of other modalities that once you get there, you get to find out about. I'm going to keep that as a little bit of a secret, but there's some super cool stuff that's in this program that I got to tell you, it just is fabulous.
But Janet, does this mean that you're moving away from teaching the passion test?
No, and I'm really glad you asked that because, absolutely not. I'm moving more into self-love because one of the things that I'm all about now, and this, I told you this a few years ago, that I wanted to create rock stars. And so I've created that's a funny thing to say. I have shared the knowledge of the passion test. And I have now master trainers in different parts of the world, enough so that it's not really necessary for me to be there. They're fantastic. They're great. And so, I get to now run all over the world and share self-love. And hopefully, and really truly hopefully, soon I'll have a lot of master trainers of this self-love program as well. Master trainers are the ones who train others to do a 4-day program, the certification program where they learn a 3-hour workshop. So, I think you're going to see that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because this is something that people know is missing from their life. What? What'd you just say?
I was just going to say, yes, I know it's going to happen. I know how forceful you are when you set your mind on something. You went out to create passion all over the world, and you did this whole communities in Japan and China and Thailand and all over. It's really amazing. So I know how much you're capable of doing. So I'm sure we will hear a lot more about self-love going on.
Yeah, and thank you. And I hope I wasn't talking too fast for everyone. I get so juiced talking about this. I just get so juiced. So I hope it worked out. I know our time is almost up, and I wanted to share, if it's okay, I have a really cool quote that was written by someone, it's on the subject of self-love, who spent his life making people laugh, but who finally learned that the most important person who needed to laugh was himself. And I think you know this guy, Charlie Chaplin, the greatest comedian of all time, right? Our silent guy. And anyway, so here's Charlie Chaplin's beautiful, beautiful quote. As I began to love myself, I quit stealing my own time, and I stopped designing huge projects for the future. Today, I only do what I love. Today, I only do what brings me joy and happiness, things I love to do. And that makes my heart cheer, and I do them in my own way and in my own rhythm. Today, I call it simplicity. As I began to love myself, I freed myself of anything that is no good for my health. Food, people, things, situations, and everything that drew me down and away from myself. At first, I called this attitude healthy egoism. Today, I know it is love of oneself. As I began to love myself, I quit trying to always be right, and ever since I was wrong less of the time. Today, I discovered that is modesty. I love this so much. As I began to love myself, I refused to go on living in the past and worrying about the future. Now I only live each day, and I call it fulfillment. As I began to love myself, I recognized that my mind can disturb me and it can make me sick. But as I connected it to my heart, my mind became a valuable ally. Today, I call this connection wisdom of the heart. We no longer need to fear arguments, confrontation of any kind, or problems with others or ourselves. Even stars collide, and out of their crashing, new worlds are born. Today, I know that is life.
Oh, that is so nice. Can you share that's a great quote. Can you share it?
Isn't that?
I'd love to send
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. I will. I'll send it to you, and you can share it and send it to everyone.
You can read it all in detail because it was a really beautiful quote. And
it's so great. Yeah, that's all actually, that's it, in a nutshell, right?
So I'm gonna share with you one last thought that, I'm reading a book at the moment by a Danish musician who died last year. And on the bedside, while, at the last months of his life, he wrote this book, and the title of it is Always Already Loved. And
always already loved. That's beautiful.
And it was just so beautiful. And it's about him, looking at his whole life, discovering, so he's been fighting to get this love. And then he realized in the end of his life that the basic of how we are here and how we, connected to the universe and to religion and to everything is that we're actually already loved.
That reminds me of Byron Katie's quote. Everybody loves me, they just don't, I think this is it. Everybody loves me, they just don't know it yet. And then our beautiful Beth Lefebvre, one of the master trainers of the Passion Test, everything anyone does to me, with me, or for me comes from love. Huh? Yeah, it's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to have you send that to me, okay? Because that was beautiful.
Yeah, but it's in Danish, Janet, so that's maybe...
Oh, well.
That's the next thing. We'll teach you Danish. But anyway.
Okay, now self-love, Susanne, says that you get in bed or a hot bath and you pour, lots of roses in your bath water and cream and some beautiful lavender oil, That's called Cleopatra's bath. That's one of rituals. That's one of the rituals of self-love, to take these beautiful baths. So that would be a wonderful thing for you to do with this cold. Just don't drink the cream.
No. I will go and take a little bit care of myself and wait for my loving husband to come home and cook me some dinner.
Yeah.
So anyway, Janet, it's been a really, as usual, a really great pleasure to have you here. And we have to get you back somehow. We have to see when that will happen.
We'll do a movie. I'm coming in April.
You're coming in April, but I think people who are listening to this call is actually from all over the world. They might not even be in Denmark, but I have a group of artists here that might want to meet up with you at some point.
I would love that.
Yeah. So take really good care and say hello to everybody in Thailand, and see you around. And thank you for sharing the love with us.
Thank you, and I love you to pieces. Love to you. Thank you for having me. Bye, honey. Love you.
Bye-bye.